Welcome to PhotoART History, Urban Heritage Stories by David Lawton. These podcasts are released in seasonal chapters, each exploring the photo art history of remarkable urban places, including Manchester Castlefield, Edinburgh Queensferry and Porto Ribera. Each season unfolds through carefully crafted episodes, offering clear, engaging and informative listening, including original ballads that introduce and frame the story of each location. You can listen to Photo Art History season by season and episode by episode wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Photo Art History. Full season Photo Art History ebooks are also available on Apple Books, featuring extended narratives, complete audio descriptions, and beautifully collated panoramic imagery. This is history you can hear, art you can explore, and places you'll never see the same way again. Listen now to Photo Art History, Urban Heritage Stories brought to life. Ballad of Queensferry. Queensferry grew with chapel and light. St. James's Stone stood through pilgrimage's flight. Jamestown, a hamlet by viaducts span, linked by the rail where the Forth's story began. Rosyth Old Castle, built in 1450's reign, Sir David's Tower faced Cromwell's fierce pain. Now shipyards roar where the fortress once stood, building great carriers of steel and of wood. South Queensferry's harbour, from Smeaton's fine hand, held ferries, then yachts, on its piers sturdy stand. Port Edgar, once naval, now sails in delight, with sheds for Scots dining and chandlery's might. Scott's Restaurant shines since 2018's dawn in a shed by the Forth, where fine feasts are reborn. The chandlery thrives, with boats rigged and sold, Beacon's proud trade in the mariner's hold. Hopetoun House gleams from 1699, Bruce and Adam's grand vision preserved for all time. The Binns Tower stands, Daliel's tale of the brave, gifted to trust, where old legends are saved. The rail bridge of 90, with cantilevers bold, road bridge of 64 and crossings new hold. 3 spans unite with the cat's mystic grace, guarding the Forth's endless tide and embrace. In 2025, the bridges still soar. North Queensferry's charm draws crowds to the shore. The cat prowls unseen, through yards and through quay, protecting the Forth for eternity's day. Ballad of Queensferry, created by Grok. Prompt engineering David Lawton, 2025. Photo Art History. The living Forth. The Firth of Forth has always been more than a stretch of water. It is the broad, tidal artery that carries the story of Scotland's east coast, a place where the sea meets the land and where power, trade and craftsmanship have converged for over 1,000 years. From the early crossings between Queensferry and North Queensferry to the thunder of modern shipyards, from medieval towers to sweeping bridges of steel, this region mirrors Scotland's evolution from kingdom to nation to modern maritime hub. This photo art ebook, accompanying a high-resolution panorama print on canvas, traces the layered heritage of the Forth, focusing on Rosyth Dockyard, Port Edgar, the historic ferry harbours, the bridges, and the local history that have spanned and defined the estuary. It highlights the enduring relationship between landscape, labour and innovation, and the continuing life of the waterway as both industrial corridor and cultural icon. The Firth of Forth, gateway of a nation. For centuries, the Forth has been Scotland's maritime gateway. Its deep waters and sheltered inlets drew settlers, monks and merchants, while its islands, such as Inchcombe, Inchgarvie and the May, served as sanctuaries and fortresses. In medieval times, ferries linked the royal burghs of Queensferry, Dunfermline and Stirling, carrying pilgrims, soldiers and kings along the coastal roads that shaped the nation's geography of power. The estuary became both barrier and bridge, a frontier crossed by oars and sails, and later by iron and cable. It connected royal castles and trading ports, linking the lowland heartlands to the North Sea's mercantile routes. Beneath its tides lie the traces of Roman camps, monastic fish ponds, and the long-forgotten timber jetties that once served medieval ferrymen. Legend and folklore say the Forth is protected for all time by the mythical Queensferry cat. Rosyth Castle and the medieval landscape. Rosyth Castle, standing near the modern dockyard, marks the oldest surviving symbol of royal authority on this stretch of the coast. Built in the 15th century, when the shoreline lay several hundred metres closer to the tower than it does today, Rosyth was originally surrounded by tidal water on three sides, a fortified island residence belonging to the Stuart family, guardians of the Crown's local interests. Its position was strategic, halfway between Edinburgh and Stirling, commanding the Forth's narrow waist and overseeing the ancient ferry routes. From Rosyth, messages and troops could be dispatched upriver to Stirling Castle, then the seat of Scottish kingship and military coordination. The estuarine channel thus served as a liquid highway of royal power, linking coastal strongholds into a defensive chain that secured the central belt. Over the centuries, silting and reclamation pushed the sea back, turning Rosyth Castle from island to inland relic. Yet its tower still stands, weathered, unbowed, a witness to 5 centuries of shifting shorelines and fortunes. As centuries progressed, the cat might be envisioned prowling the harbour at Queensferry, observing the steady pulse of ferries, the arrival of steamships, the roar of machinery during the construction of the Forth Bridge. It would have gazed from rocky outcrops as the road bridge was assembled, its cables slowly rising into the sky, and later as the Queensferry crossing stretched like a harp string across the river. The cat's mythic continuity allows the narrative to hold together disparate temporalities. The 17th century laird, the Enlightenment aristocrat, the Victorian engineer, the naval shipwright, and the modern commuter all exist within the same continuum of observation. This mythic companion also highlights an important theme within heritage interpretation: that buildings and landscapes are not static relics, but living entities shaped by perception and memory. The houses themselves evolve. Plaster cracks, stone weathers, rooms shift function, plantings grow or die back, archives are rediscovered, and new generations reinterpret their significance. The Forth Keeper cat embodies this fluidity, reminding the reader that the essence of continuity is not the freezing of time, but the subtle weaving together of successive chapters. Hopetoun's gilded interiors, the Binns' tower room with its commanding view, the bridges gleaming against the estuary light, all are part of a palimpsest shaped by changing political, social, technological and environmental conditions. Furthermore, the presence of the cat underscores the interconnectedness of natural and cultural heritage. The Firth of Forth's ecosystems, salt marshes, tidal flats, woodlands, shape the setting in which the houses exist and have long influenced human settlement patterns. Wildlife corridors intersect estate boundaries. Bird migratory routes cross above the bridges. The cat, small but symbolically potent, moves between human-designed and natural spaces with ease, suggesting that heritage cannot be understood solely in architectural or historical terms, but must consider ecological interdependence. As the 21st century continues, Hopetoun and the House of the Binns stand as enduring monuments to Scottish identity, craftsmanship, and historical narrative. Their stories, architectural, familial, political, intersect with broader regional transformations: the rise of Queensferry as a transport node, the industrial role of Rosyth, the technological feats represented by the bridges, and the shifting economies of tourism and conservation. In all these developments, the imagined Forth keeper cat, curled against ancient stone or watching from wind-swept grass, acts as the symbolic continuity linking past to present. It reminds the observer that heritage is not simply a matter of preservation, but of sustained relation, a long gaze across the water, attentive to change, yet rooted in memory. Produced by PhotoART History, Urban Heritage Stories, this podcast is part of a series of 12 podcasts from Season 1, Queensferry, Edinburgh. The complete Season 1 is available free for 2026 on Apple Books, with full audio and images and accompanying ballads and history over 1,000 years included in each of the 12 series, covering Rosyth Castle and Dockyards, Hopetoun House and the House of Binns, the Forth Rail Bridge, the Forth Road Bridge, and the Queensferry Crossing. Search David Lawton, Queensferry, Edinburgh, available January 2026.
Discover breathtaking panoramic photo art, limited edition prints capturing the heart of Manchester Castlefield and Edinburgh Queensferry. Each museum-grade print is created in exclusive small runs, paired with richly detailed history ebooks, available now on Apple Books, revealing the stories behind every landscape. View these works at the gallery next door, showcasing outstanding regional artists and curated contemporary exhibitions. Or explore them through Cheshire art agencies, leaders in art placement, private commissions, and collections across the north. Own the art, own the history, own the moment. Visit thegallerynextdoor.co.uk, CheshireArtAgencies.com, and search David Lawton PhotoART on Apple Books.
Welcome to PhotoART History, Urban Heritage Stories by David Lawton. These podcasts are published in seasons, depicting the photo art history of exciting areas of cities such as Manchester Castlefield, Edinburgh Queensferry, and Porto Ribeira. These series of podcasts are available for each season, offering easy, informative listening, including constructed ballads introducing each series podcast. Full season photo art history ebooks are available free on Apple Books, including full audio descriptions and accompanying collated images. Ballad of the Forth Rail Bridge and the Queensferry Cat, when the dream first stirred. In the days when steam was rising and the iron roads were young, bold men spoke of crossing waters where the Forth's deep currents swung. Thomas Booch sketched a vision, slender threads across the tide, and a company formed with promise, dreaming rails from side to side. The shadow of the Tay. But the Tay turned fierce and tragic when the winter storm winds roared. Thomas Booch's proud bridge was shattered, lives were lost, and hope was flawed. Across the land the fear was spoken, trust no frail or faulty span. So the Forth fell silent, waiting for a safer, sterner plan. A new design of giant strength. Then came Fowler, Baker, Arrell, masters of the measured gauge. Steel instead of cast iron weakness, lessons learned from grief and rage. Cantilevered arms like mountains stretching outward to the sky. A red cathedral built of thunder where the seabirds wheel and fly. The workers of the wind and tide. 5,000 hands in all weathers swung the rivets, sank the stone. Caissons groaned beneath the pressure, grim as any battle zone. 57 souls were taken by the waves and by the height, yet the bridge kept rising upward, forged in sweat and human might. The great opening day. 1890's March came shining, flags unfurled from pier to pier, and the Prince of Wales stepped forward as the crowds roared loud to hear. Steel rang out beneath the engines, red as blood and built to last. A triumph of the age of empires, by the Tay's dark ghosts surpassed. A century of iron pride. Through the wars and roaring railways, through the decades' endless sway, still it carried freight and travellers, steadfast every night and day. Glass flake paints and careful tending kept its proud ribs gleaming bright. Ending tales of endless painting with a single coat of might. UNESCO's crown and modern days. Then in 2015, glory came the world's acclaim at last. UNESCO crowned its iron grandeur, honouring the ages past. Now abseilers, walkers, railmen gather where the gulls soar free. A living bridge of Scottish spirit, spanning time and history. The Queensferry cat keeps watch. Yet above the beams at twilight, when the crimson shadows fall, prowls the Queensferry cat of legend, silent guardian of all. Through the storms and through the ages, she protects each steel-bound ridge, castle stones, Rosyth's great dockyards, and the mighty Forth Rail Bridge. Created by ChatGPT, Prompt Engineering, David Lawton, 2025. Welcome to PhotoART History, Urban Heritage Stories by David Lawton. These podcasts are published in seasons, depicting the photo art history of exciting areas of cities such as Manchester Castlefield, Edinburgh Queensferry and Porto Ribeira. These series of podcasts are available for each season, offering easy, informative listening, including constructed ballads introducing each series podcast. Full season photo art history ebooks are available free on Apple Books, including full audio descriptions and accompanying collated images. The Forth Rail Bridge stands today as one of the most iconic engineering structures in the world, a symbol not only of Scotland's industrial prowess, but of the Victorian capacity for ambition, innovation and persistence in the face of profound technical difficulty. Its red-painted steelwork, stretching confidently across the Firth of Forth, is such a familiar part of the landscape that it has come to feel inevitable, as though it has always existed, as though its shape was the only possible answer to the challenge of spanning the great estuary between the Lothians and Fife. Yet the story of the bridge is neither straightforward nor predetermined. It is a narrative shaped by tragedy, political debate, emerging engineering science, competition among railway companies, and generations of human labour, all interwoven into a structure that has endured for well over a century. To understand the bridge in its fullest context requires returning to the centuries before its construction, following the development of rail technology, the ambitions of industrial Scotland, and the shifting demands of national infrastructure. It is a story that begins not with steel, but with the concept of connection itself. Before the advent of fixed crossings, the Forth had long been recognised as both a barrier and a strategic opportunity. Ferries at Queensferry, established at least by the reign of Queen Margaret in the 11th century, provided the principal route for travellers, royal parties, military forces and merchants moving between Edinburgh and the north. For centuries, the ferry service remained reliable, even celebrated, but it was constrained by weather, tide, and the natural limit of boats. With the rise of railways in the mid-19th century, the inadequacy of ferries for rapid industrial transport became increasingly apparent. The expanding Scottish railway network, competing for dominance among several large companies, required fast, uninterrupted routes for carrying coal, manufactured goods, and passengers. Crossing the Forth by railway ferry, such as the service between Granton and Burnt Island, was a logistical burden that made timetabling unpredictable and limited the competitiveness of Scottish lines against English competitors. A fixed crossing was not merely desirable, it was gradually becoming essential for economic efficiency and strategic continuity. Early proposals began to emerge almost as soon as engineers grasped the scale of the challenge. Before 1873, several visionary but impractical designs were sketched, some involving chain bridges, others vast suspension spans whose technology exceeded the available materials. The Forth, deep and tidal, with strong winds and unpredictable currents, offered no easy solution. The scale required, far greater than comparable bridges of the era, made many politicians and investors cautious. Added to this hesitation was the shadow cast by the catastrophic failure of the Tay Bridge in 1879. Designed by Sir Thomas Bouch, the Tay Bridge collapsed during a storm, killing 75 passengers and prompting the most severe loss of public confidence in Victorian engineering. Crucially, Bouch had been the original engineer commissioned to design the first version of the Forth Bridge, a suspension design that was rendered unacceptable in the wake of the Tay disaster. The event changed everything. It reoriented engineering philosophy, emboldened critics to demand unprecedented levels of structural security, and, most importantly, created the conditions under which a new, far more robust design would be required. Into this context stepped the formidable partnership of Sir John Fowler and Sir Benjamin Baker, two engineers whose combined expertise would produce the cantilever structure that still stands today. Their design philosophy was grounded in principles of redundancy, stiffness, and deep understanding of wind loading, lessons painfully reinforced by the Tay disaster. Rather than relying on suspension systems that required cables of enormous strength and stability, Fowler and Baker favoured a steel cantilever system built around three major double cantilevers anchored into colossal masonry piers. This system provided unparalleled rigidity and distributed forces in a manner that allowed the bridge to withstand high winds, temperature variation, and heavy train loads. Their early concept drawings reveal a bold geometry of triangular frames, deep cross-bracing, and a scale unmatched in world engineering at the time. But before designs could progress further, political support and substantial financial commitment were required. The Forth Bridge Railway Company, funded principally by the Midland Railway and the North British Railway, took responsibility for promoting the project. Parliamentary approval was secured in 1882 after lengthy debate over safety, feasibility, and national necessity. Some critics questioned the cost. Others worried that placing such faith in experimental scale steel structures could invite a repeat of past disaster. Nevertheless, momentum had shifted. Scotland needed a reliable East Coast rail route, and the ambitions of the railway companies, now backed by engineers of international reputation, made the project irresistible. The government approved the scheme, granting powers to acquire land, undertake construction, and operate the bridge as a critical piece of national infrastructure. Actual construction began in 1882, initiating one of the most remarkable engineering operations of the Victorian age. The first task was the creation of the massive granite and masonry foundations for the great cantilever towers. These foundations required caissons, huge iron cylinders sunk into the riverbed using compressed air, to allow workers to excavate the sea floor. Some caissons reached depths of more than 90 feet, making the Forth Bridge foundations among the deepest ever attempted at the time. Conditions inside the caissons were dangerous. Workers were subjected to tremendous pressure changes, risking decompression sickness, then poorly understood, while enduring cramped, dark, and waterlogged working spaces. Despite these hazards, the foundations were successfully completed, establishing the secure anchor points necessary to support the unprecedented structural loads of the bridge. With the bases in place, construction of the steel superstructure could begin. Over 53,000 tons of steel were used, each piece riveted into place by teams of skilled workers. Riveting alone became a defining feature of the project. More than 6.5 million rivets were driven into the frame, many of them heated in portable furnaces, thrown red hot to riveters perched hundreds of feet above the water, and hammered into place with astonishing speed. The soundscape of construction, constant metallic ringing, hissing furnaces, and shouted communication among workers became part of the local environment for years and influenced the cultural memory of the project. Safety measures improved gradually as the project evolved. Nonetheless, working conditions remained treacherous. Officially, the death toll stands at 57 workers, though some estimates place the true number higher. Many more suffered injuries, including frostbite, falls, and crush injuries. The human sacrifice embedded in the bridge is substantial, and its memory remains an important part of its heritage interpretation. Engineering innovations proliferated throughout construction. The cantilever method required precise balancing of forces, meaning that each arm of a cantilever had to be built simultaneously, advancing outward over the Forth while maintaining equilibrium. The sheer height and length of the arms meant that temporary support scaffolding was impossible. The structure essentially grew out of itself, an act of controlled structural choreography. Baker and Fowler employed new analytical methods to calculate stresses, including load distribution experiments using scale models. Dramatic demonstrations, including Baker's famous photograph of the human cantilever, with workers supporting a representative load, helped communicate the principles of the design to the public and regain confidence in Victorian engineering after the Tay disaster. As the bridge's immense steel towers took shape, they redefined the skyline. Locals recounted the sense of awe with which they watched the great frames rise, often obscured by mist, giving them a mythical quality. The progress of construction became a national spectacle, occasionally attracting newspaper tours, scientific observers, and even international visitors curious to witness what was then the largest cantilever bridge in the world. The technological confidence embedded in the structure helped transform perceptions of Scotland's place in global engineering. It became a project that symbolised not only industrial strength, but also resilience, the ability to adapt, learn from failure, and implement new scientific knowledge in structural form. The final component of the bridge, the central suspended spans between the cantilever arms, was carefully hoisted into place in 1889. Once these sections were secured and riveted, the overall structural pathway across the Forth was complete. The remainder of the work involved laying tracks, installing signalling equipment, completing approach viaducts, and conducting extensive testing with heavy locomotives to demonstrate safety and strength. The official opening took place on the 4th of March 1890, presided over by the Prince of Wales, later King Edward VII. The event attracted enormous public attention, and newspaper coverage emphasised both the triumph of engineering and the symbolic unity of Scotland's rail network. The bridge had cost far more than initial estimates, around £3 million, equivalent to hundreds of millions today. But its completion was celebrated as a national achievement, fully worth the investment. Once operational, the Forth Bridge quickly proved its economic value. It revolutionised travel times between Edinburgh, Dundee, Aberdeen and the Scottish Highlands. Freight, particularly coal, timber and agricultural produce, moved more efficiently, strengthening Scotland's contribution to the wider British economy. The bridge allowed Scotland's East Coast rail system to compete more effectively with the West Coast lines and with sea routes. Indirectly, it boosted tourism, urban development in Fife, and the expansion of industries requiring reliable connectivity. Over the decades, its functionality has remained remarkably consistent. Unlike many Victorian infrastructures, it has not required fundamental redesign. Instead, it has undergone cycles of maintenance, repainting, strengthening, and monitoring. Most notably in the late 20th and early 21st centuries, with sophisticated inspection regimes and new protective coatings. Culturally, the Forth Bridge achieved a status rarely accorded to engineering structures. It became a symbol of industrial endurance, giving rise to the expression, "like painting the Forth Bridge," referring to a task that never ends, though modern coatings have finally ended the need for continuous repainting. Its image appears repeatedly in literature, art, railway posters, educational material, and Scottish iconography. It has served as a training site for engineers, an inspiration for structural designers, and a case study in universities across the world. In 2015, the bridge was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, formally recognising its global significance. UNESCO cited its pioneering engineering principles, the integrity of its original structure, and its profound influence on subsequent bridge design. Beyond engineering and economics, the bridge shaped communities on both sides of the Forth. North Queensferry and South Queensferry became associated culturally and geographically with the bridge's presence. Families who worked on the project passed stories down generations, contributing to a communal identity rooted in bravery, hardship, and pride. Mariners adapted to new navigation patterns, and artists found new opportunities for representation. As the decades passed, the bridge also became a site of remembrance, honouring the workers whose lives were lost during construction and celebrating the skill of those who contributed to its completion. Today, the bridge remains fully operational, carrying heavy modern rail traffic with a reliability that would impress its designers. Engineers continue to marvel at its conservative but brilliant design, noting that its safety margins were so substantial that it remains far from structural fatigue even after more than a century of service. The structure's ongoing monitoring regime utilises sensors, drones, and computer modelling, merging Victorian craftsmanship with 21st century technology. This continuity underscores the bridge's ability to transcend eras, embodying Victorian boldness while accommodating contemporary engineering standards. In the realm of heritage interpretation, the Forth Bridge is increasingly understood not merely as an object of engineering, but as a living part of Scotland's narrative. Guided tours, educational programmes, and interpretive installations explore not only the technical stories, but the human experience. The riveters working in winter storms, the caisson diggers labouring in darkness, the supervisors watching over enormous lifting operations, and the communities listening to the thunder of trains passing high above the water. These human stories enrich the bridge's identity and ensure that its history resonates across generations. Finally, as all great landmarks accumulate mythology, the Forth Bridge has gained its own modern folklore, particularly in the communities near Queensferry. People speak, half in jest, half in affection, of a ginger cat said to wander the piers and viaducts, watching over the old structure with serene guardianship. The mythical Queensferry cat, imagined as wise and ancient despite its youthful form, is said to have padded along the scaffolding during construction, unseen by workers except in brief, flickering glances. Today, storytellers describe it perched atop the great cantilever arms, tail curling in the sea wind, ensuring that the bridge remains strong, safe, and eternally connected. Whether believed literally or embraced symbolically, the legend reflects something true about the bridge, that it is loved, protected, and woven deeply into the cultural life of the region. The ginger cat has become a gentle emblem of continuity, an imagined guardian for a structure that has itself become a guardian of Scotland's engineering heritage. Produced by PhotoART History, Urban Heritage Stories, this podcast is part of a series of 12 podcasts from Season 1, Queensferry, Edinburgh. The complete Season 1 is available free for 2026 on Apple Books, with full audio and images and accompanying ballads and history over 1,000 years included in each of the 12 series, covering Rosyth Castle and Dockyards, Hopetoun House and the House of Binns, the Forth Rail Bridge, the Forth Road Bridge, and the Queensferry Crossing. Search David Lawton, Queensferry, Edinburgh, available January 2026.
Discover breathtaking panoramic photo art, limited edition prints capturing the heart of Manchester Castlefield and Edinburgh Queensferry. Each museum-grade print is created in exclusive small runs, paired with richly detailed history ebooks, available now on Apple Books, revealing the stories behind every landscape. View these works at the gallery next door, showcasing outstanding regional artists and curated contemporary exhibitions. Or explore them through Cheshire art agencies, leaders in art placement, private commissions, and collections across the north. Own the art, own the history, own the moment. Visit thegallerynextdoor.co.uk, CheshireArtAgencies.com, and search David Lawton PhotoART on Apple Books.